It's Muppeturgy with a bird-brained episode about the Leo Sayer episode of The Muppet Show with our own very special guest star, Susan Casey.
Yay!
Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here with us. I'm David Levy, and here today are
Christy Bauer,
Michal Richardson,
Adam Grossworth,
and our aforementioned special guest star, Susan. Hey, Susan.
Hey, hi everybody. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here with us. Susan Casey is a retired Aquarius with perfect pitch from Louisville, Kentucky. While the rumors of her appearing on Broadway that circulated around her kids' middle school in 1997 are unfounded, her adventures have taken her through, among others, the wild worlds of real estate, flea markets, and Girl Scout troop leadership. She is a pop culture enthusiast with a lot of opinions about HGTV, every Bravo show that's set in LA, and the Lawrence Welk Show. In addition to Muppeturgy's own Christy Bauer, she is the proud mother of Casey, an elementary school principal, and grandmother of two brilliant human grandkids, Oscar and Beatrice, and two grand dogs, Pickles and Elvira. And just to be clear, she is Christy's mom, not co-parent with Christy of Casey.
Oh.
Susan, tell us a little bit about your history with the Muppets.
Well, I've got a long history with the Muppets. I started out being a fan when the show was on when I was a teenager. We couldn't miss the Muppet Show. It was just like, in stone, I was like, well, we got to go do something. No, we got to watch the Muppets. So, and then when Christy came along, she reintroduced me to them. And I don't know if she'll want me to tell this story.
Yeah,
but
you can tell it.
But when she was 3, from the time she was 3 until she was 5, she would only answer to the name Ernie because she was such a fan of Sesame Street. And like the kids in the neighborhood, they would be like, hi, Ernie. And I was like, oh, they're talking to my child, so.
I think Christy has shared that story on the podcast at least once.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Muppets have played a big part in our life, and Muppets Take Manhattan, that was always on rotation at our house. And this has been fun listening to you guys do the profiles on the episodes. And I'm just thrilled to be here.
We're so glad you're here too. We're especially glad, not just because you're Christy's mom, but as we wander into the depths of the 70s, there's only so much perspective we have as people who were either not yet born or very, very little. So someone who was a teenager at the time when these guests were very popular with teenagers is a great addition, I think, especially this week.
I'm glad to share any answers to any questions that you have.
Great, because we've got at least one big one, which is, huh? But we'll get there.
I feel like there are equally weird, if not weirder, pop stars today. I just watched this week's Saturday Night Live, which you won't listen to this for a while, but Post Malone. Okay, so this episode is season 3, episode 2 of The Muppet Show. It was produced the week of February 21st, 1978, and it aired in New York City on December 4th, 1978. A quick pedantic note about air dates. We touched on the unscientificness of this last week and many times in the past. And this week, I noticed that Muppet Wiki lists all of this season's episodes as airing on Saturdays, which they probably did somewhere because the show was syndicated. And actually, I remember this as being a weekend situation, and I'm from New York City. But anyway, the New York Times archives confirms that in New York City, in first run, they were still on Monday nights at 7:30 on Channel 2. So we are going with that just in case you are fact-checking us, which we always welcome. It has happened in the past. It will surely happen again. But we're right about this.
What if this time strike was because they had been printing the wrong air dates for the Muppet Show?
Oh, maybe. We're not... Well, that is in the past, but our future. Oh. So we'll get there. On December 4th, 1978, this was number 12 in the air order, 2 weeks after Kris Kristofferson and Rita Coolidge. In the news, Jonestown is still on the front page of the New York Times 2 weeks later, but let's not talk about that. Inside the paper, it is Christmas with some amazing full-page ads for Macy's featuring calculators and phones, including the Superphones 7700. We will have screenshots of those in the show notes, obviously. On television, WLIW-TV, which is Long Island's PBS station, is off the air while its transmitter is being moved. Wild. And it's like in the listings as if it were a show.
I'd watch that.
No, you wouldn't. You literally could not.
It reminds me of there was a time when I was in high school that one of the local radio stations was in format limbo. And for 6 weeks, they just played I Am the Walrus on a loop.
Wow.
And it's all we listened to. We'd get in the car and we would just listen to I Am the Walrus, like from point A to point B. Like it was normal.
Christy's mom, is that real? Did Christy make this up?
I know it's hard to believe, but it is true.
Like they couldn't even put on the whole album?
No, just, well, they ultimately, it became, I think, a classic rock station and they named it the Walrus. So it ended up like, having a reason. But at the time, we're like, we have no idea why this is happening, but we're kind of hypnotized by it. And we
Amazing.
Kept it on.
The Rockefeller Center tree lighting was tonight, hosted by Phil Donahue. We mentioned last week that the Carol Burnett show had ended, but we do have tonight Carol Burnett and Friends, which is syndicated.
And half an hour.
And half an hour. So that wasn't listed in the premieres, or I missed it when I researched those. So I don't know if they overlapped or if I'm just a dummy.
It's just a repackaging of the Carol Burnett show.
Oh,
yeah.
Got
It's the version that is on MeTV right now. It's the half-hour version.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm glad that they live on. On great performances, Mikhail Baryshnikov makes his debut with the New York City Ballet, which feels like a cultural milestone. Less so, the NBC movie Suddenly Love, starring Cindy Williams and Paul Shenar. A young woman from the ghetto falls in love with a socially prominent lawyer.
Wait, Cindy Williams is the young woman from the ghetto?
They don't say what kind of ghetto.
Okay.
So yes, apparently so. Guests on The Tonight Show are Lou Rawls, Sandy Duncan, and Loretta Lynn, notable because they are all, of course, Muppet Show guests. And the midnight movie on Channel 9 is The Werewolf, and the description is, like it says, period, chomp, comma, chomp, period. So this is now apparently a thing the New York Times is doing, and I won't read those every week, but it's...
Yes, you will.
Only when
I might, if they're good. I don't know. It seems so off-brand, but it's a thing.
Somebody got shoved this with a 1 minute deadline.
Well, I mean, imagine the job of writing the TV listings. Which was someone's job, so you got to make your own fun.
To introduce our guest star, that's what I'm here to do. So it really makes me happy to introduce to you.
Leo Sayer is a wee man. He's a tiny British singer-songwriter who had a string of international hits in the 1970s. Born in 1948 to an Irish mother and an English father, Leo grew up in England as the second of three brothers. He was discovered in his early 20s by British singer-songwriter David Courtney, who connected him to Adam Faith, another British singer-songwriter who was then a producer and manager. Near the start of his career, Leo and David co-wrote the song Giving It All Away, which became the first solo hit for The Who's Roger Daltrey. Leo's first single on his own didn't elicit much excitement, but his second, The Show Must Go On, went to number 2 in the UK, following a television performance in which he did the song in full Perrault costume and makeup. We'll put that in the show notes, because I think it helps give a little context for the performance of the song he does on The Muppet Show.
Oh, I'm tired already.
The album that featured this song also went to number 2, and Three Dog Night had their last Billboard Top 10 hit with a cover of that song. From there, Leo's star continued to rise in the UK and abroad. By 1977, he hit a career high point when he had 2 back-to-back number ones in the US, both of which you'll hear on The Muppet Show, You Make Me Feel Like Dancing and When I Need You. You Make Me Feel Like Dancing also won a Grammy Award for Best Rhythm and Blues Song. I don't know.
What?
That makes about as much sense as Kermit saying that Leo is a real rocker. So, maybe genres were just different in the 70s.
There is
a
a
little more
crazy story about that Grammy that we are going to get into.
All right.
Oh, great. I can't wait to learn.
Yeah.
In the 80s, he made headlines for financial difficulties that were uncovered when he and his wife split. Those were attributed to mismanagement by Adam Faith, and they had a real messy public fight about it. Sayer and Faith settled, but by the 90s, Leo had another long fight on his plate, this time with his former label, Chrysalis, but the result was that he succeeded in regaining the publishing rights to his songs. Financial misfortune found him again in the mid-1990s when he discovered his pension fund had been mismanaged. He attempted another big fight, but ran out of money and had to cut his losses. According to Wikipedia, he went back on the road and, quote, toured his way to financial security. In 2005, he moved to Australia and earned citizenship there in 2009. He's still recording. His latest album came out this year, a collection of Beatle covers called Northern Songs. And that's everything I have to say about Leo Sayer. Does anyone else have Leo Sayer feelings?
I mean, my entire Leo Sayer feelings are he's a guy who did some songs that my mom listens to a lot.
Yeah, is it safe to say I kind of am a fan of his? I don't know.
It's a big part of why you're here, so please tell us more.
You're welcome here.
Yeah, I don't really know why, but he just, I've always loved his music. That's all I got. Sorry. It's kind of one of those strange but true things. So.
When he was at his height, I don't even know how to ask a question.
Start again without Eddie.
Where did he fit? Because looking at him with 40 years removed from the height of his popularity, I could see him fitting in a little bit with glam rock, and I know that he did actually perform with Roxy Music, but I also see, You Make Me Feel Like Dancing feels like disco to me, but Kermit calls him a rocker, and so where in the 70s did he sort of fit into this constellation of music, which looking back feels like it was pretty distinct and separate, and there wasn't a ton of crossover like that.
I would have considered him kind of like a top 40 type person,
Definitely not rock, right?
No, no, not at all.
But he wasn't like a teen idol necessarily. He was more just kind of middle of the road.
Yeah.
Top 40, right?
Exactly.
We know Animal's a fan.
So, Susan, you've shared your thoughts about Leo Sayer. How do you feel about this episode of The Muppet Show?
Oh, I thought it was really enjoyable. I watched it probably 3 or 4 times. And yeah, I didn't realize he was such a good dance. Well, I wouldn't say good, but a frenetic type dancer. Kind of a frenetic type dancer, but I was kind of shocked at that. But compared to some of the ones that I've seen, I thought it was, I rated about an 8, I guess, out of 10, maybe.
Michal?
Yeah, that ranking sounds about right to me. This is good, clean fun. Between Annie Sue and Leo Sayer, there's a whole lot of perm happening this episode. There's a lot of hair going on. Not as much rock music as I was led to expect, so deducting a point for that. But it's a good time. I got no complaints. Questions, but not really complaints.
David?
Yeah, I like this episode. It's, maybe not an all-timer, but it's definitely as good as an average episode gets. So happy to be here. Happy to talk about it.
Christy?
I agree with everybody. I think this one's a lot of fun. I mean, it's pretty middle of the road, but half of me is just so happy to have a Piggy plot that doesn't involve her weight that I maybe am giving this one a little extra credit. I mean, I don't think this one's going to stick with me for super long, but I had a good time. Mom and I watched it together. We definitely had some major laugh out loud moments. So that always rates it pretty high in my book.
Yeah, it's weird because it's really structurally similar to the Elton John episode, I think, and the Kris Kristofferson and Rita Coolidge, right? It's a singer who is not an actor, who basically just goes out and does his songs with some Muppets around him. But it works better, even though, right, I think, the Elton John songs are unquestionable classics, and these maybe are not. But I don't know, I really liked it. And maybe it was the power of low expectations, but then I watched it 2 more times. So yeah, I don't know. I had a really good time. I think it's also there's a proper backstage plot, and he's weirdly charming, emphasis on the weird part, but so is Elton John, and that didn't work. I don't know.
Leo Sayer is willing to engage with the Muppets, I think, in a way that Elton John is not. He's willing to get up and dance around and put himself out in a mime costume and go out on a limb, literally.
It's also really interesting that none of his musical numbers really have him interacting with any of the like core Muppet cast. There, some of them are like playing behind him, but he doesn't really interact with them. And then also this episode doesn't have any of the recurring sketches. There's no newsman, no hospital, no Muppet Labs. And yet it all sort of coheres. I don't know. I thought that was, it sort of defies what I would have thought of as rules for a successful episode.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Let's get into it.
Leo Sayer, 15 seconds to curtain, Mr. Sayer.
Thank you, Scooter. You know, I don't really believe that this is the Muppet Show. It's so quiet in here, you can almost hear a pin drop.
Oh, strike!
So Leo Sayer, not only a real rocker, he has a healthy sense of skepticism. Until Behemoth and Lunch Encounter Monster drop a set of bowling pins onto his head. He doesn't believe he's in the right place. And I love that one of the pins is just broken in half already when it lands on him.
And looks real.
Yeah.
I'm sure it can't be. But I was struck by that broken pin as well.
Yeah. Do you need an aspirin? If you were struck by the pin.
Statler and Waldorf are always saying the show is hoofless.
Speaking of which, Statler and Waldorf are also skeptical of this episode.
Come back here, Statler. If I have to stay and watch this, so do you.
Yep. At the end of the theme song, Gonzo blows his trumpet. Something flies out. To me, it looks like confetti. The wiki says that it's sparks, but Gonzo yells, "My teeth!" Is it all teeth? Is it hundreds of teeth?
It's a lot of teeth.
It was a horrifying moment when he said that. Like,
it's weird. It's weird the wiki says it's sparks. It's clearly not sparks. There's a sound effect that goes with it that makes me think that they are trying to sell the teeth thing, but it's obviously confetti. Also, ew.
Also, does Gonzo have teeth?
No.
Yeah, not anymore.
Nor should he, as we have discussed.
Yeah, no thank you. I noticed something weird in the opening credits sequence this week. And so there's a shot early on. I think it's when they're pulling away from Kermit. When he announces the guest star, where you see the backs of the Muppets in the front row in silhouette. And there's clearly somebody in a bonnet that looks like Miss Mousy. But then when the row of female Muppets comes out, there's Miss Mousy. So it's like Mouseyception. Like
Mouseception.
It's like...
You think only one person can wear a bonnet?
I mean, have you seen anyone else wear a bonnet in that theater? Regularly?
I mean, Cloris Leachman.
Okay. But I mean... Yeah, I just feel like we have another Too Many Floyd situation on our hands.
Oh no. Don't put that in our heads.
Muppet Show backstage.
This week backstage and on stage, we will officially meet Annie Sue Pigg. We also met her last week, but heck, let's meet her again for the very first time.
Well, of course not, Kermit. You said she was a girl singer. I am a woman singer.
Yeah. Well, that is true.
So, what is she, a chicken? What, a goat? She's not a frog, is she?
No, she's a pig. She's a pig.
Another girl pig singer?
Yeah, but you're a woman.
Forget that, who cares?
Yeah, but like I say, she's nothing like you. I mean, she's very young.
What?
Oh dear.
Another newsflash. Frank Oz, good at this.
Yeah, good at his job. Miss Piggy heads to her dressing room to sort her feelings out. Meanwhile, Annie Sue's debut on stage is making a real splash.
I love her. Well, that little bundle of talent's the only thing that'll keep this show going.
Shall we shoot her now before she ruins everything?
It's pretty intense.
It's a lot.
Yeah. She didn't do anything. I mean, she showed up with talent. Oh, well.
So, awkward segue from that clip, but is it me or does Annie Sue not seem that young?
She looks adorable.
She's adorable, but like the hair or the voice, the eye makeup, I don't know. It's just something. I mean, I don't know how. I don't know what a pig ingenue would look like. To be clear, like I don't want her to look like a piglet, but I don't know. It's just
we've had piglets on the show.
It's just a weird thing in this world of the Muppets because I think it's a challenging thing to differentiate, and I don't know if it's a thing that they could be doing with costume or with hair or what. But
well, I also wonder if, and Susan, you can weigh in on this. In 1978, was a perm considered more of a young person's hairstyle?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
did you ever have one?
No, because when I was little, Mom put something on my hair and it caused it to where it won't ever perm.
Well,
whoa. Story in itself.
Her hair is also very Annie.
Yeah.
Like Little Orphan Annie, so that could be a thing.
I had Farrah Fawcett type hair.
You did?
With the world of hot curlers.
See, I think that would be a better choice for her, but I guess I don't know.
I mean, listen, the Muppets have tried different pig ingenues over the years, and you look at Pamela Henderson from the 90s or Denise from more recent times, and none of them really succeed in looking younger than Miss Piggy. Those two just end up looking like they've had work done.
Right. They look sluttier than Miss Piggy, but not younger than Miss Piggy. Let's just call it what it is.
I think they do something with her eyeliner that makes her look more wide-eyed, less experienced than Miss Piggy.
She's going out there, Piglet, and she's going to come back a star.
That's right. So before we debate whether Annie Sue's appearance on the show is part of an elaborate prank on Miss Piggy, let's hear Kermit purporting to make it all up to her. He surprises Miss Piggy by sending her on stage to do the dramatic recitation she's always dreamed of doing. She is on a set that is blanketed with flowers.
I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills. Excuse me. When all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils.
Watch! Sorry.
Beside the lake, beside the tree.
At the end of this, the audience sneezes back at her, and she gets yanked backwards behind a piece of the set that falls down over her.
And she's wearing this like blue dress nightgown situation that I love. She looks very comfortable. It's also a great color. Very into it.
Yeah. Too bad it was ruined.
Well. So then she comes backstage.
All right, where is El Slimo? Who put the sneezing powder in the flowers?
Meanwhile, Rolf, whose piano got sneezed off stage, is like picking at the debris that has landed on his piano.
It is the piano, right? I think the piano's all broken. It's like little hammers.
Yeah.
That's what those are.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's a really, there's some really good prop work this week in general.
Yeah.
It's a nice bit.
Well done. Did Kermit put sneezing powder in the flowers? Did he also bring Annie Sue at the same time just to see what Miss Piggy would do?
Did Annie Sue put sneezing powder in the flowers?
Well, is Annie Sue even aware of how Miss Piggy feels about her?
No, she's oblivious. Because then Kermit sneezes. There's no resolution to this. I believe it's just a shit ton of flowers.
Yeah, that's what I think it's supposed to be.
And I don't think we're meant to believe that anybody actually sabotaged the act.
I wouldn't put it past those flowers. I mean, or past Kermit, but given that
I wouldn't put it past Scooter.
Yeah.
Conspicuously absent.
Exactly.
Never see Scooter and Annie Sue in the same place at the same time.
I really we didn't clip it, but the scene before the daffodils bit, I don't know what to call it, the number, the act, whatever, where, Piggy is clearly upset. This is after Annie Sue's number that we'll hear when we get to the music. And Piggy is clearly upset, and Kermit is like, hey, I have a surprise for you. This thing you've always wanted to do, you get to go do it right now, which is a hell of a set change because suddenly the entire stage is covered in apparently fresh, real flowers that were not there a minute ago. And it's just like, we've talked about Kermit being kind of a bad boss. And it's this sort of lovely moment with Piggy where he sees that she's upset and he does something that makes her happy that ends up going very badly. But let's assume it's not his fault and he didn't actually sabotage her. That's I'm choosing to believe that. I don't know. I just found it sort of strangely lovely and nice to see him being a good manager for a change.
He remembered something that Miss Piggy wanted and gave it to her. That could be thoughtful.
I don't think doing like an elaborate production without a rehearsal or warning is really lovely. Like that's like actor's nightmare territory, I think. Like no matter how much you wanted to do it with no notice, without a tech rehearsal, which by the way would have uncovered the problem with the flowers. That's malpractice.
That's a fair point. But if anybody in that theater is like, all right, I'm ready to go, it's Piggy.
Right. And she was.
Yeah.
She was off book.
Yeah, he said that dramatic recitation you've always wanted to do. And like, yeah, she can recite it. She has it memorized already.
So I have a couple of thoughts about Piggy this week.
Mm-hmm.
One is, I don't know if I've ever made this comparison before. I know that I've commented before on how striking Piggy's eyes are. Like, Piggy has gorgeous eyes for a Muppet. But they remind me of, there was a time that I was in Midtown Manhattan, walking around, and I was struck by this guy's eyes. I was like, oh my God, this guy has the most piercing, stunning blue eyes I've ever seen on a human. And then I looked over and I was like, and he's standing next to Jennifer Connelly. That's Paul Bettany. Anyway, all of which is to say, I had this moment where I went, wow, Miss Piggy has Paul Bettany eyes, which is definitely a sentence that I don't think has ever been uttered by a human. So
I would have said that Paul Bettany has Miss Piggy eyes.
Yeah. And I love that song from the 80s.
There we go.
But my other thought is, I think that Piggy, at this point in the evolution of the Muppet Show, may be the most developed, thought-out character of all of them. You know, I mean, look, we've already remarked on the genius of Frank Oz, but if somebody was like, you know, show me an episode that demonstrates the depth and range of Miss Piggy, I think I would maybe point them to this one.
Well, at this point, she's maybe the only three-dimensional Muppet character. And I would argue that the only one who eventually also gets there is Gonzo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at this point, you're right that Miss Piggy is the most developed character, and Fozzie is a close second. There's something to that Frank Oz trick of writing elaborate backstories for his characters. Seems to work out. So, given all this, Miss Piggy retreats to her dressing room, but her troubles follow her.
Oh, Miss Piggy, Miss Piggy, Miss Piggy, Miss Piggy, Miss Piggy!
All right.
Oh, I can't believe it. Here I am, face to face with a real superstar. I can actually reach out and touch you. But I won't. I never thought it could happen. I've been an admirer of yours ever since I was a little baby. Oh. It was so nice of you to open your door to me.
Well, we must do it again sometime, my dear.
Oh, when?
Well, right now. Do drop in again sometime.
I don't really have anything to say about that scene except that I love it.
Thank you for including the clink at the end of the star falling off of Miss Piggy's dressing room door. Whew. That's intense.
Especially considering that Louise Gold is brand new. Like, they're really great together. It feels very real, even though it's also very old shtick. It just brings me joy.
So Miss Piggy is not handling things especially professionally, and then again, neither is Kermit.
They seem to like it.
Oh, you were wonderful, Annie Sue.
Oh, thank you, Kermit, sir, but I really didn't do that much.
Oh, well, you just saved Fozzie's act, that's all.
Really?
Sure.
Oh.
I'd say that bear was in a lot of trouble.
Yeah? Oh, now it's the frog's turn!
Yeah, that was the sound of Miss Piggy dropping down onto Kermit like a drop bear.
Off the dressing room balcony.
Yeah.
We probably didn't need that clip, but there will be a GIF in the show notes.
Yeah, it's good to know what you're watching when you see that GIF and watch it over and over and over again and try to figure out where they changed the camera. I mean, you can see where they changed the camera, but it's still fun to watch.
So everybody put on your dancing shoes or maybe your flailing shoes.
Sitting on the floor shoes.
My rock shoes.
Yeah, you're sure. Yeah. Because we're in for some music. Maybe not the music that is promised or described, but some music. We start with a genre clarification.
Hey, we're very excited about tonight's guest star because it's not very often that we have any really good rock on the show.
Yeah, we rocks are pretty upset by it.
I suppose that's true. I guess we've been taking you for granted. My lucky rock with no sense of humor. Get out of here. Okay, as I was trying to say, here is one of the truly great stars of rock music, the delightful Mr. Leo Sayer, who makes us feel like dancing.
Rocco's dad. Still really ornery. Ornery.
Oh.
I get it.
All right. So this is introduced as rock music, but you be the judge.
Just snap your fingers and I'm walking like a dog hanging on your lead. I'm in a spin, you know, shaking on a string, you know. You make me feel like dancing. I wanna dance the night away. You make me feel like dancing. I wanna dance the night away. You make me feel like dancing. I feel like dancing, woo, dancing, dance the night away. I feel like dancing, woo, dancing.
Rock music, sure.
I mean, it's a well-known disco classic.
Yeah, yeah. It's a weird move for all involved. But yeah, this is "You Make Me Feel Like Dancing," which is one of Leo Sayer's #1 hits. It was a hit for him in 1977, so it was a very recent hit at this particular point in time. So this would be like, I don't know, having a Harry Styles on. Well, he's not quite as big as Harry Styles. Like, I don't know. Lizzo, yeah, that's a good, sort of good corollary. Yeah, it was hit #1 on the Hot 100, and he won a Grammy for Best R&B Song. The song is credited to him. So his full name, we haven't mentioned yet, is Gerard Hugh Sayer. Don't know where you get Leo out of that, but sure. To him and to Vinnie Poncia, but I love this because my mom doesn't know this, and you're going to get to hear her freak out in real time on a podcast. So the song, in actuality, was written by Ray Parker Jr. of Ghostbusters fame.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. So according to an interview from 2020 in Variety with Ray Parker Jr., I'm just going to read this because it's mind-blowing. For all of his early success, though, there were dues to pay, including one that still hurts to this day. It started with a song he'd written and recorded called You Make Me Feel Like Dancing that he presented to a label suit in 1976. He said, "Hey, if you cut that with Leo Sayer, I'll give you part of the song," Parker, 66, recalls. "Well, I never got my part of the song." Anyway, they go on to say, that it went to #1. He never got credited. It won the Grammy, and he didn't get the Grammy. And he said, it kind of hurts when you see somebody on TV collecting a Grammy for your song. And here's my mother in Detroit, and I haven't bought her a house yet. He says, calling it one of the lowest points of my life. Every time I hear the song on the radio, the first thing that comes to my mind is, I don't have a Grammy for that, and my name isn't on it, and nobody recognizes me for writing that song. And then he goes on, and at least is very nice. He says, Parker doesn't blame Sayer for the behind-the-scenes machinations, insisting that it was a higher-up's decision not to put his name on the record. It's not Leo's fault, he insists. He tried to cut 6 or 7 more of my songs just because he felt so bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad I was sitting down.
Oh my.
It's just extra funny because we were talking about Ray Parker Jr. the other day.
Right.
The year the Ghostbusters was big, my dad and a couple of their friends at the time all dressed up in the same suit that Ray Parker Jr. wears on the album cover for Ghostbusters, like for Halloween or something? Or was it just like a random thing?
No, it wasn't for Halloween. We were just going out one night.
As one does.
Sure.
Yes.
It's like
you dress like somebody on an album cover, you know?
Yeah.
It was a pink shirt and a white suit, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I remember correctly.
I'm glad he had Ghostbusters still ahead of him at this point.
Yeah. For sure.
So I'm looking it up. He was born in 1954. He was like 20 years old when he wrote the song.
Yeah.
Did he get royalties for it?
You know what's strange is I looked it up in the ASCAP database, and he still isn't credited for it. I don't know if it's a thing that retroactively, like, it may be more hassle than it's worth at this point, but like, especially with the Grammy and all of that, it's like he must have signed some sort of agreement, like some sort of bad deal, you know, where he, without realizing it, signed away his publishing rights.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible. But hey, who are you going to call?
Lawyers.
Sorry.
No, somebody was going to have to say it eventually. It was just inevitable.
I did give birth to her, so you know.
So there's this quote. This is terrible. There's this quote that's attributed to Boy George, and it's all over the internet, but I couldn't confirm it. But he allegedly said about Prince, bear with me, that Prince looks like a dwarf who's been dipped in a bucket of pubic hair. which is deeply unfair to Prince and Little People and pubic hair and frankly buckets. But it's very funny, and the second that Leo Sayer appeared on stage, this popped into my head, and I just couldn't shake it. And I had to release it to all of you.
I just thought he looked like a Cola Scola character. Like, it's hard to believe that this is a person, not a person doing a parody of a person.
Yeah. Part of what makes it so weird, I mean, he is very, very small, and we didn't set this up. He is, so remember the creepy dancers from the Charles Aznavour episode? It's like that, only now they're birds.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that's more, or I guess I find it less creepy because like the human faces without mouths is what made that so creepy, but they're not creepy that they have bird heads.
They're not trying to be Muppets. They just look like birds. They look like taxidermied birds sitting on people bodies.
It sort of struck me as being like Sid and Marty Krofft's Phantom of the Paradise.
Yeah. So they're these very like 70s, like tall, lean dancer bodies in creepy Eyes Wide Shut bird heads. And then one like very Muppety, full body Muppet bird. And then tiny Leo Sayer pops out. And part of what I think makes it really weird is that he's obviously lip syncing, and the falsetto he's doing to me like seems extra weird when it's lip synced. Cause like your body has to do things to make that sound, and his is clearly not doing any of them. So like there's like a weird uncanny valley effect to like everything that's happening. I really like this song and I really like this number. I think it's very fun, but like I also couldn't shake like how strange it is.
So these birds also will recur, which I had sort of forgotten about them. And then the minute they show up on the screen, I was like, oh, right, those bird guys. And they're in at least 2 other episodes. And they're performed by dancers from London's Royal Ballet, which I feel like they didn't fully take advantage of this time around.
This is a Gillian Lynne joint, and the birds to cats path is not long, I will say.
Oh, and then we also have the featured bird.
Right.
Whose name is?
Fletcher Bird. The feature bird is Fletcher Bird.
Sure.
Who's named after the dancer, Gregory Fletcher, is that right?
Graham Fletcher.
Graham Fletcher, who we saw on the Rudolph Nureyev episode as the pig ballerina. And again, like, on the one hand, I think it's great that they've recognized that this dancer has a particular talent that they want to bring back and use again and again, that they create a character for him. But if you're going to create a full-body Muppet character to show off a ballet dancer's skills, Fletcher Bird feels like entirely the wrong one, because it's sort of like big and baggy and bulky. And so he ends up dancing more like a costume character in a Disney park parade than like a very talented ballet dancer. The whole thing just was so weird.
I mean, he sort of reminded me of like if you had given Miss Finch from Follow That Bird like Quaaludes.
Yes.
Well, and then, so we touched on this a little bit in the intro. Leo Sayer cannot dance. He may feel like dancing, but he cannot do it. And so he's like flailing around. And then at one point I guess like he gets knocked over by the bird and winds up sitting on the floor. But then he just stays there. He just sits cross-legged on the floor and like looks up at Fletcher Bird's crotch for a while, which is awkward. It's just so, I mean, he's so enthusiastic, which is throughout the entire episode, which is the thing that makes it endearing. But like, it's so strange.
Well, honestly, I thought the tall Muppets dancing around, it just didn't fit to me at all. It just seemed like it pointed out maybe some of his inadequacies. So I don't know. I don't like the Muppets that are like that. That are the humans dressed in the. I don't. It's just my personal preference, but
yeah, it can be a bit unsettling. That's totally fair.
Yeah. But yeah, I loved seeing him dance. I mean, or whatever he was doing. I just think he's cute, which is really unsettling in the fact that he resembled my second husband, but
can confirm.
Yeah.
There's something about him reminds me of me when I was young.
What is it?
Well, mainly his age.
So the reign of terror of Abe Burrows on the Muppet Show continues.
You put a piece of carbon paper under your heart and gave me just a copy of your love. Each Dove and Pigeonhole know who got the original. Darling, can't you see what you mean to me? Oh, how you fooled me with those giggles, winks, and nudges. The love that you gave me was a duplicate with smudges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that is our newly minted star, Annie Sue Pigg, singing a song called Carbon Paper, which is an Abe Burrows song. And I'm just convinced that Jim Henson lost a bet to Abe Burrows because it's a lot of Abe Burrows content in seasons 2 and 3. And not only that, we will see this song again in season 4. So,
well, that seems unnecessary.
Yeah,
and on
right?
The Rolf album, Old Brown Ears is back.
Yeah, it's a Rolf version in season 4. Yeah, so Abe Burrows' song that he premiered on his eponymous radio show. And if you've walked away from these experiences thinking, man, I just need to know everything there is to know about Abe Burrows. I need to really get to know the man. Apparently the original score for this, along with most of Abe Burrows' papers, can be accessed for research purposes in the Billy Rose Theater Division of the New York Public Library for the Performing Arts at Lincoln Center. You have to call and make arrangements in advance. They keep them off-site. But
oh man,
yeah, you can really. I was about to say get your feet wet. That doesn't even make sense.
I'm just picturing the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah,
only in reverse. Somebody has to go get them and pull them out.
Yeah, if you don't call in advance, like a boulder chases you through Lincoln Center.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, there are those ramps and stuff.
Unlike the other Abe Burrows numbers, I found this charming. Maybe just because I really like carbon paper and I kind of miss it.
Sure.
I don't know. I really liked playing with carbon paper when I was a kid. My dad was a professional writer, so we actually had a lot of it in the house because he used it. And then there was that period when certain documents and contracts and things still involve carbon paper, even when we were using computers. So I worked in offices where there would be a typewriter just for that. So I have a weird nostalgia for carbon paper.
I mean, in my office, carbon paper only went out a couple years ago.
Yeah, I mean those were some of the reasons why I had a typewriter in my life.
I do enjoy the smell of it.
Right.
And as with other Abe Burrows songs that we've heard, this is cleverly written. It's a fun song. Each Dove and Pigeonhole knows who got the original. Know who got the original. That's cute. Yeah. Can't fault him for that.
Okay, so first of all, I have a theory that Annie Sue's costumes got switched by mistake because the next thing she does is she assists Fozzie in what is essentially a magician's act. And in that, she wears a cute little dress. And in this, she's wearing a tuxedo. So I don't understand. But the tuxedo jacket is so badly tailored that I want to scream.
Well, I assume because it's like the purple tuxedo that all the Muppets wore in season 1, so I assume they just pulled it off the rack and maybe ran out of time.
Okay, but then don't let her turn around so we can see the back of it.
But there's something that's also wrong with either the body of the puppet or the arms, or there's something that just doesn't fit together with this puppet, but only when she's wearing the tuxedo. When she's wearing the dress, it looks fine.
I wonder if the sleeves are pulling at the arms or something.
Yeah, it made the arms look hollow, like they didn't have any arms in there.
It's just like the whole point is that she's supposed to be adorable, and she just looks terrible in this outfit.
Yeah, there's something kind of uncanny going on where you can see that it's puppetry rather than it feeling like a person.
So the first time I watched this number, I thought, oh, wow, this is Louise Gould's first big number. And you can really tell, like, I don't think the puppeteering here is very good at all. And then I read Muppet Wiki, which says that according to a conversation that Louise had with her number one fan about 20 years ago, that because this was her first big number, she didn't feel ready to do it yet. And so Frank Oz puppeteered and Louise just did the voice. So then when I watched it the second time with that sort of in mind, I think maybe Frank Oz was actually very appropriately puppeteering Annie Sue's nervousness. But I don't know if that's just confirmation bias. How did all of you receive sort of the physicality of the puppeteering of Annie Sue?
I went on that same journey that you went on. And then when I rewatched it, I thought, oh, it's the limitations of the puppet. He's doing the best that he can, and he's kind of hamming it up, as it were. And she does some Frank Oz type moves with the way she walks, and she does the like throwing her head back. And he does the best he can with this puppet, but I think there's something else that's going on that's making everything feel stilted.
But I've been blind, oh so blind, wasting my time, wasted all so much time, walking on the wire, yeah. But I won't let the show go on.
That's where he lost me.
Not with the mime act?
That is also where he lost me.
I was like, oh, I really like this song. Oh, and now this is happening.
Yeah, no, thank you. So this is a song called "The Show Must Go On" that was co-written by Leo Sayer and David Courtney, and recorded and released in the UK in 1973. And it was his first hit. It peaked at number 2 on the British charts, and it was on his debut album called Silverbird. What is it with him and birds? Maybe there's a thing happening here.
This episode in Birds.
Yeah. So the song was actually covered by Three Dog Night, and their version in 1974 peaked at number 4 on the Hot 100. Yeah, apparently it was their 7th and final gold record. 4 went out for Three Dog Night. Yeah, this is a lot. And we were talking about it as we were watching, and Mom, what was the thing that you said about the mime?
Yeah, at the very end of the song, they show him, as a mime singing. And I asked Chris, I'm like, I don't understand. I don't think mimes are supposed to sing.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I had so many other questions. I didn't even get to that one. You're right.
That's why y'all have me here.
Yeah. You're coming back every week.
Yeah.
It just seems like he's having some sort of circus-themed fit. I mean, I know that, like, people have problems with clowns, and there's, like, clown phobia is a real thing, but, like, this is more like a clown mania. It's upsetting.
Are mimes clowns?
Well, that's the thing, is... I mean, I'm sure there are people who would happily come on and debate is a hot dog a sandwich fashion, whether a mime is a clown.
If you cut it in half. If you can serve half of a mime to 2 of your friends.
Okay, well... There is a website called differencebetween.net, which is the first result if you Google, is a mime a clown?
Oh, this is going to be my new thistoThat.com.
Mime employs the art of illusion to create invisible objects. On the other hand, clowns refer to comic performers who use slapstick to perform comedy characterized by oversized clothing. I don't agree with this definition. I'm moving on.
Yeah, well, the reason that I mentioned clowns at all is, like, apparently he did entire performances of this song places dressed in, like, a Pierrot costume.
Yeah. Okay. WikiDiff is also a thing. Sorry. Moving away from that.
Well, and I think we should say, in case people don't know what a Pierrot costume is, that has similar makeup to my makeup, except it tends to cover the whole head instead of just the face. And then it has sort of the big, like, floofy white, like a gay French clown.
Yeah, the classic French clown.
I was going to say the kind of clown you'd see on a lamp.
The white baggy outfit with, like, the pom-poms down the front and the pointy hat and the white makeup. So it's similar makeup, but different. So there's a scene where Dr. Teeth and Leo Sayer discuss the arrangements for the song and how this was not the arrangement that he had sent, but he liked it anyway, which I was curious about because this is a very banjo-forward arrangement, and the Muppets are often very banjo-forward. So I was curious about that. I don't normally do a ton of research into the music because I really enjoy having Christy tell me things that shock me when we're recording. But so I went and looked up the original song, and it is, in fact, not very different from the arrangement they do on The Muppet Show. And then I found him do, like, a concert. Like, not just he did the song in the Pierrot costume, like, on Top of the Pops or whatever, but, like, he apparently did whole concerts in the Pierrot costume, not just the one song, which is a real commitment to the bit.
Yes,
it's a lot to take in.
Well, I can't believe I'm saying this, but this week we have a music hall bit in the UK spot, and it's a bit of a palate cleanser.
She was a dear little dicky bird. She went sweetly, she sang to me till all my money was spent. Then she went off song. We parted on fighting terms. She was one of the early birds, and I was one of the worms. She was a dear little dicky bird.
Pretty amazing that we're hitting up the entire, like, Dicky Bird canon.
What if we've only scratched the surface?
I mean, I feel like we may just be scratching the surface. So this is a song called She Was One of the Early Birds, written by T.W. Connor in 1895. Shout out to the public domain. T.W. Connor was the pen name of Thomas Whitcomb, who had two careers. In addition to being a successful songwriter, he worked as an administrative officer in the Port of London.
Oh.
Good for him for having a day job. No shame in that game. Other song titles that he wrote included A Little Bit of Cucumber and Has Anybody Seen Our Cat?
If we ever do a Muppeturgy trivia game, we will definitely have to have a category of, is this a real music hall song or did Christy make it up?
Yeah.
Did the cat take the cucumber?
Yeah. Or eat the early bird. Yeah, apparently this was the Despacito of its time. It was described in an 1895 newspaper as the rage of London. So just think about that for a second. And it was introduced by George Beecham, who was promoted by himself as an eccentric vocal character comedian. Yeah, this is another wild and tragic music hall performer story. He married fellow performer Nellie Lingard in 1889, but she died of tuberculosis in late 1899, age 31. He continued to perform, but died in a hospital in Liverpool while on tour the following year, age 38. His death was from pneumonia, and according to Wikipedia, possibly the result of a somewhat dissipated lifestyle.
Somewhat dissipated.
I don't know what that means.
Not entirely.
Yeah, just a little bit of dissipation.
I did not know that dissipated meant overindulging in sensual pleasures, but now I do.
Oh.
I also decided to finally look up what a dicky bird is, And it turns out a dicky bird is a generic term for any kind of little bird, such as a sparrow or chickadee, that dates back to the 1700s in England. So, like on Sesame Street, little bird could be a dicky bird.
Well, and the bird in question in the number here is the smallest of the birds. It's very dainty.
And vaguely reminiscent of Little Bird.
Yeah. This is fun, but it definitely raised some questions for me about Gonzo. Because I thought his deal was chickens. I didn't know that it extended to other...
Much smaller.
Well, the chicken thing hasn't really fully come in yet.
He did have an affair with cheese.
Right.
That's
So
true.
I think this is just like another step towards that direction.
Sure. He's finding himself. It's fine.
It does feel like there's something going on with birds.
Doesn't it always?
And it's like not even just this episode, like this season, I think there's just like a lot of birds.
We're only 2 in.
I know, but like we know the bird-headed folks are going to show up again. Like I haven't been watching ahead, but I have very distinct memories of the Liberace episode where there are a lot of birds.
Well, they built them. They have to justify their existence.
Yeah, I guess. Speaking of, we built the Muppets. We better figure out how to use them.
Miles and miles of empty space in between us. A telephone can take the place of your smile. But you know I won't be traveling forever. It's cold out, but hold out and do like I do when I need.
So a lot to unpack here. Let's start with the history of the song. It's a song called "When I Need You" that was written by Albert Hammond and Carol Bayer Sager. We will definitely get into some more Carol Bayer Sager later in the run of the show. And this was another Leo Sayer hit. This was also a number one on the Billboard Hot 100 and number one on the UK singles chart. Big hit in the spring of 1977. And Billboard actually ranked it as the number 24 song of 1977. Interestingly enough, the melody of the hook of this song is identical to a part of a Leonard Cohen song called Famous Blue Raincoat. And Leonard Cohen was asked about it in 2006 by Canada's Globe and Mail. And he said, yeah, somebody sued them on my behalf. And they did settle, even though, he laughs, they hired a musicologist who said that particular motif was in the public domain. Shout out to the public domain. Mm-hmm. And, in fact, could be traced back as far as Schubert.
Famous Blue Raincoat has a melody?
Yeah, you only really discover when people cover Leonard Cohen songs that Leonard Cohen songs have melodies.
I want to credit this appropriately. Our friends Mark Blankenship and Sarah Bunting, I think I mentioned last week, or maybe it was the season 2 finale, have, by the time you hear this, completed a series on soft rock of the 70s, which they are ranking by moistness. This song is in it, and in the comments on their Patreon just today, as we're recording this, Jen Hunt wrote, "Is When I Need You about masturbation?" And I admit I kind of zoned out while this was happening because it's kind of dull, and I went, "Oh wait," and I went and watched it again, and yes.
Oh no.
It has to be. So
does that mean?
I don't know if
oh my goodness, I'm reading the lyrics. And
I'm saying,
very right.
I know we have some overlap in our listeners. So Jen, I don't know if you actually listen to Muppeturgy, but I wanted to shout you out in case you do, and thank you. When I need love, I hold out my hand and I touch love. I just close my eyes and I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah, so we should mention that Leo Sayer is singing this at the top of a tree in a set that I think of as the Canadian Forest of Despair, because it's not the regular one. It's the one that appeared with Cloris Leachman and the Mounties. This has to be another one of those situations of, you build it, you use it, the Ventaface principle. Yeah, and so it's Leo Sayer at the top of a tree, surrounded by various forest critters, including some of our friends from Emmett Otter, who are singing this lovely plaintive ode to masturbation with him.
So it's more than that. So they have him up a tree, and are trying. So he's singing the song up a tree. It makes no sense, but it could be one of those Muppet situations where like he needs to be, they're not obviously singing the lyrics literally, and he needs to be rescued, and that's why he needs her, him, them, and so the bear seems to be the leader of this group of mostly non-carnivorous animals who are trying to get him down, and then they succeed. The beaver gets involved. The bear takes out one of those fish.
The swordfish, right?
It's like a swordfish, but like not, because it has like a
saw.
Like a saw where the sword like for its nose, and like uses that on the tree. But this fish like must be dead, right? It's so weird, and they succeed in getting the tree down. So now Leo Sayer is on the ground straddling the tree trunk, and apparently what they wanted was to fuck Leo Sayer. Because the bear comes up behind him and like hugs him from behind and is just like caressing him very tenderly.
Oh, that explains why before, when the bear has Leo's foot in his mouth, neither of them seems particularly worried about it.
And it also explains why he sings part of the song as a tender duet with Mayor of Waterville, Harrison Fox.
Also, who is one of the carnivores involved. It just dramaturgically, the storytelling here is very strange. It seems to be a happy ending for all, so great. No judgment. Forest orgy, everybody wins, but it's so weird.
We have to make a t-shirt that says Forest orgy, everybody wins.
I don't know, it sounds messy.
With just a picture of Emmett Otter and no other explanation.
Yeah, just a picture of Mayor Fox.
It's so strange. And it doesn't really help this very sleepy song.
Oh, I think it helps the sleepy song. I was surprised by how entertained I was by what would otherwise be an extremely boring song.
I feel like this is a great slow dance at the middle school dance number, Like it's just sleepy enough that you dim the lights and you play this song, and the little 7th graders hold their arms straight and far away and sway back and forth. It's like custom made for that.
Yeah. And that's how he's singing it. He's singing it wistfully, gazing off into the distance while all these animals try to eat him or fuck him or whatever they're doing. Even if we don't understand the scenario, I'm amused.
I will say, the first time I watched it, I noticed there's one shot where you can see the wires where they've rigged Leo Sayer for when the tree falls, and it made me so nervous.
Oh.
I was like, he's going to fly in the Canadian forest. What is happening?
Well, it's cold out, but hold out and do like I do.
Oh, this brings back so many teenage memories for me.
Oh, goodness.
Of what, Susan?
Okay. Are you sure I was old enough to be on this podcast, Christy?
It's a family show in this case.
It's not. We have an explicit tag for a reason.
Never mind that jazz. Listen, turkey.
What? And get out of show business?
Well, let's get down to show business. Discuss whether Fozzie is wearing enough clothes. So after forgetting why he came on stage in the first place, Fozzie eventually remembers that what he's here to do is a memory act. He also forgets the name of his lovely assistant, Annie Sue. He manages to refer to her as Anything Pig, Annie-Thing, or Anything Pig, Miss Thing Anything Thing. And as he's struggling to remember her name because he's failing terribly at doing a memory act, Annie Hoo-Ha Pig.
That's very cute.
Fozzie eventually remembers that what he's supposed to be doing in this memory act is describing where someone in the audience is sitting based on Annie Hoo-Ha Pig's description of what they're wearing.
Okay, do it.
Okay, the mystery person is wearing a little brown hat.
Yep.
A white bow tie.
Yep.
With red polka dots.
Yep. Yeah. Well, so is that all he's wearing? Come on.
Yeah.
But that's ridiculous. I mean, that means apart from a hat and a tie, he's bare.
That's That's right!
It is?
It's you!
It's me! Of course it's me!
I have questions here. Red polka dots?
Yeah?
Aren't they pink? Aren't they like a magenta
They're kind
color?
of red in the center, but the way they're spread on his tie, it makes them look pink. They look pink, though.
I've always thought of them as being kind of like a magenta color. I mean,
Yeah. They match
this
his
is
nose.
Really nitpicky.
No, you're right. I had the same thought. Aren't his polka dots pink? Also, the way she says poker dots is so cute.
That's very funny.
I appreciate that we had that conversation in the Cloris Leachman episode about why Fozzie Pig looked so much more naked than Fozzie Bear, which this doesn't resolve, but I appreciate the confirmation that he is in fact naked.
Well, we've already been over this in Good Grief, the Comedian's a Bear.
Right, true.
Or no, he's not. He's wearing a necktie.
What I find incredibly funny about this is that later on, Frank Oz would go on to direct a feature-length version of this sketch called In and of Itself, which you can now watch on Hulu.
You'll laugh, you'll cry. You'll wonder how they did it.
All those things are true.
That was an amazing mess of mediocre mediocrity.
You can say that again.
Wanna bet?
Well, we flew through this episode. Does anyone have final thoughts they'd like to share?
I have one. I noticed since our previous discussion of the new and improved closing credits and the features for all of the various instrumentalists, I noticed that Floyd's guitar in his feature lights up.
Huh.
It's very cool.
Good for Floyd.
Thank you guys for having me. I've really had a good time.
Thanks so much for joining us. We loved having you.
We're so happy you were here.
Oh.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Muppeturgy. Tune in next week when we'll be discussing the Roy Clark episode of The Muppet Show. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Muppeturgy or on the web at Muppeturgy.com. If you like what we're doing, please spread the word with a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts. Our theme music was composed and performed by Christy Bauer. Our show logo was created by Todd Brian Backus, and this episode was edited by me, David Levy. I mean, I'm not anti-bird.
I am.
Oh, a little bit. They creep me out.
Lousy, mangy dinosaurs.
It just reminds me, an ex-roommate of mine who grew up in rural Northern California once told me, never feel guilty for eating chicken. They're vicious assholes.